Okay, we are going to call the meeting to order. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The mission of the Harrisonville Cass R9 School District is to provide excellence in education. That is why we do what we do. All right, moving right into it. We need preview approval of the agenda. Need a motion?
Yeah, I move we approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Consent agenda. We need approval of the consent agenda. Need a motion?
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Moving on down to student recognition. Let's see here. Yeah.
So I'm going to bring to you our December HHS Students of the Month, and the staff this month voted on Miss Bailey Cleaver and Mr. Zach Cheney. So both come up here. Brag on these two here for a few minutes. I'll start with Bailey. Bailey's involved in basketball, track, and tennis at the high school. She told me that after high school, she plans on attending Rogers State University, which is in Claremore, Oklahoma. She's going to play basketball there and major in sports management. She told me her favorite part of high school is winning the district girls basketball championship her sophomore year. I asked her what 3 staff members who made a difference for her at HHS were. She identified Mrs. Middleton, Ms. Shellman, and Mr. Bebout. And this is what they had to say about Bailey. Mrs. Middleton said that Bailey is an extremely hardworking and focused student athlete. She's very determined to be the very best at whatever she does. Bailey has helped me coach my Little League basketball team, and she's extremely good with the young girls. She knows exactly how to break down the game of basketball so the little ones can understand it. I feel very blessed to have Bailey in my life. She brings so much joy to my girls and our lives on a daily basis. Ms. Shellman said that I've had the pleasure of knowing Bailey for a couple of years now. She immediately struck me as a hardworking, passionate, respectful, and polite kid. I've seen tremendous growth in her in just the past year as a student, athlete, and overall person. She's a great leader in the classroom as well as on the basketball court. On a personal level, Bailey has been a role model for my 8-year-old daughter as well. Coincidentally enough, her name is Bailey too. Big Bailey, as we call her, is a volunteer youth basketball coach, and Little Bailey has been fortunate enough to work with her on her rec team as well as at our high school practices. Big Bailey always goes out of her way each day at practice to ask my Bailey how her day was or if she wants to shoot around with her. As a parent, words can't describe how much I appreciate these things from a player and a student. These little things are just a small sample of the kind of positive role model and person Bailey truly is. I consider myself very lucky to have met and coached Bailey, and I'm looking forward to seeing what the future holds for her. And then Mr. Bebout said that I know the saying that if I could have a classroom full of this student, my year would be so easy. That's an overused expression, but I don't know of a more deserving student to have that said about than Bailey. I'm hard-pressed to think of another student that is as well-rounded and level-headed as her. She's extremely kind and gracious, as well as determined and hardworking. Over the past few years, I've seen her get frustrated a few times, but that did not deter her for very long. She knew she would have to learn the material and get the work done, so she would focus harder to make sure she got it. I wish all kids had that kind of motivation. I'm so proud to see Bailey get signed to play college basketball at a high level, as I know she has worked her tail off to make it happen. I know she has great things in front of her, and I cannot wait to hear about her successes down the line. As much as I'm excited to see her take the next step in life by going to college, I must say that I will miss seeing and talking to her around HHS. And I would echo that sentiment. Ms. Bailey Cleaver. And then our male student of the month was Zach Cheney. Zach is involved in football, baseball. On a side note, he also works at the movie theater here in Harrisonville. Zach told me that his plans after high school are to attend the University of Central Missouri and major in psychology. He told me that his favorite part of high school is that it helped him explore new things and to figure out what he wants to do. I asked him for 3 teachers that have made a difference for him, and he identified Mr. Anderson, Mr. Devaney, and Mr. Beebout as well. Mr. Anderson said that Zach is an example of the type of student that everyone likes being around. He's kind, intelligent, caring, dependable, and determined. Traits that make Zach an absolute pleasure to work with and have in class. Zach is almost always the first to arrive in class and one of the last to leave. With a genuine and warm personality and a very approachable demeanor, Zach is very well respected and liked among his teachers and peers and represents many leadership qualities that are sought after in today's students. Mr. Devaney said Zach not only has a great mind, but he also has an incredible work ethic. His grit and determination are what makes him not only an excellent student, but also an outstanding individual. He's not a vocal leader and not someone that stands out at first, but when there's hard work to be done and there's a need for someone with great persistence to finish any job, Zach Cheney shines. And then Mr. Beebout said trying to figure out what to say about Zach is difficult. It's difficult because I've known Zach since I coached him in 7th grade. I know how great of a young man he is, and it has been awesome to watch him mature and come into his own over these past 6 years. At first, Zach can seem really quiet and reserved, but after a while you get to see how funny he really is. Zach is an extremely hard worker that never settles for mediocrity. I've seen him keep achieving on successes, one after another, over the last 6 years. I know this will continue for the rest of his life. It'll be exciting to hear about what he's up to, and I hope he keeps in touch as the years go on. Mr. Zach.
Congratulations, you two.
All right. Moving on to audience delegations. Did we have anyone sign up?
No, ma'am.
All right. Then we will move on to the MSBA delegate report.
I had a nice little report ready for you, and I guess I left it at home. So it was very short, just a couple things. One, about half of the report from MSBA was on Commissioner Van Dieven, that she's back, and they interviewed the board president and her, and things. I think she's kind of jumped in where she left off, so that was part of it. The other things, there was MSBA had some conversations about charter schools, and their stance is that they support charter schools that are approved by public school districts and follow the same accountability standards, or have the same accountability standards. So they said that we'll be hearing some talks about that. There is some concern about charter schools that provide, right now the majority or all the charter schools in Kansas City and St. Louis, but now they're starting to go into some other districts, and so the concern is about duplication of services, and there's only so much money at the State Department, and then it gets split into more pots, which will affect public education. So they're kind of watching that. They also said that there's still going to be a lot of conversation. They're really going to be fighting for transportation money, because that's still a problem, because there's so many people that are trying to dip in at public education transportation money. So, and then the final thing was just February 11th is the legislative forum in Jeff City. It's the Public Schools Day at the Capitol. So Susan will let us know if they're going to send somebody to that.
Is the transportation money that they're talking about cutting, was that for the special ed? That was not it.
It's one of the few categoricals that remain, so it's easy, low-hanging fruit, and they like to cut transportation so that they can say that they're fully funding the formula, and so they can kind of balance that SAT number and then take from the transportation dollars. So.
Okay.
And they expect to fully fund the formula again, but again, they've got to take from somewhere to do that.
Thank you, Gina. Okay, donation acknowledgement.
So we had a donation to for the AED, and let's see. Oh, this is the cast crew. We haven't done the AEDs
Right.
yet. So this is donation for the cast career center from the Belton Fire Department. So thank them for their donation.
That's excellent.
Thank you.
Thank them, yes.
Jeanette, do you want to expand on that at all?
They gave us all kinds of goodies. We were very appreciative of them. He's got EMT instructor was new to us last year, and he's really done a great job of reaching out, getting new people on his committee. And as you guys heard me talk about earlier, we had a past situation with Dalton, so it's nice to see them giving back to us.
Awesome. Do we, as a district, send thank yous for those, or do they take care of the building level, or?
Varies.
Okay. But they do get acknowledged somehow, they get some kind of a thing.
We always send, we have whatever class it's being donated to, we have them all sign off on it and get it out immediately.
Okay. Assessment and evaluation of district programs.
Revenues for the month of November. The most notable one is that we received from Blue Cross Blue Shield $101,000. This was our maximum refund. And what that is, we have that agreement within our contract with Blue Cross Blue Shield. If our premiums come in more than our experience or our claims, then we get those monies back. Now, if it were the big opposite, we would not have to pay more. But with the agreement, we do get money back. This is the first year that's happened, and we saw $101,000, which is one-time money. We can't, spend it ongoing, but it was a nice little piece of reward coming back to us. So as far as the other funds, everything else looks about the same as it did last year. Property tax receipts are starting to come in December. We've seen one payment of $2.8 million, but we're expecting a little over 10. So those will come in through the rest of the month of December and possibly the 1st of January. So
Is that why, like the month, like the last year to this year comparison for the month of November and the year to date is so much different in terms of revenue?
possibly, yeah.
Maybe because we
We
got
saw
that
some in-
earlier and it was
We have,
reflected.
in the past, we have seen monies come in November, and we didn't this year, so they're running a little
Affected,
late
yeah.
getting those distributed. So, because tax bills did go out fairly early, so they're just hanging on to their money. Expenditures mirror really closely November of last year. The only significant difference was the purchase of the Chromebooks, which was that $199,000. And total cash and investments are, at the end of November, $5.4 million.
Thank you.
Just a second. Can you anticipate what our percentage fund balance will be after the December tax
Oh,
revenues?
it'll be mid-30s,
Okay.
maybe up to 40.
Great.
And then we'll start spending
Okay.
down, of course, with
Yeah,
our.
that's fine, because it's really low right now.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Okay.
Any other questions for Kathy? Okay. Student assessment?
Student of the month and family, before I begin, if you want to sneak out, this would be a golden chance for you, okay? You go that way. Oh, that's great. All right. Before you is a presentation about MAP data and EOC and TSA data. On the first slide, 2, it talks about grade level MAP. Just a reminder that math and ELA were new tests last year, so comparing year to year, you're not comparing the same tests. To read this chart, okay, sorry, we're having a little technical difficulties. We're getting there. There we go. The top one is how the grade level performed, the amount of students advanced and proficient for that content math versus the state in parentheses. So you can see on the top of the column how the grade level did. If you go left to right, you can see how that cohort graduation group compared year after year. And then if you start top to bottom, you can see how a grade level is done over time. So that's the MAP scores, again, compared advanced and proficient versus state levels. On slide 3, this is 8th grade total, because again, in 8th grade, remember, we have students taking the Algebra 1 EOC, but we also have 8th grade students taking what we call regular MAP math test. So you can see the breakdown. There's a number of students in the first column that were advanced or proficient on the MAP part in a percentage. Third column would be the amount of students in Algebra 1 in 8th grade, advanced or proficient. You can see 52 out of 54 there. And then overall in the last one, 46% versus 39% to the state overall for both 8th grade regular MAP and Algebra 1. Does that make sense? All right. Slide 4, high school EOCs for math. We give them an Algebra 1 For the students that don't take it in 8th grade, they take the Algebra 1 EOC, and then the Algebra 2 is taken by the students that have taken the 8th grade one, but they need to take in math EOC at the high school, so they take Algebra 2, and there's our scores, advanced and proficient versus the state. And you look at the Algebra 1, that's one of the reasons that Mark and his math team decided to try the PLP, the Personal Learning Program, because we know that Algebra 1 has been a little bit lower at the high school level, and so we're trying a new instructional strategy modeled after Liberty North there on that one.
Did we have state scores, average score available for 16 to 2010?
I don't think so, otherwise it'd
They're not
probably be
in
on there. Yeah. Yep. I could go try to find that though.
I was just curious.
Yep. Next slide 5 is all students together, 8th and 9th grade on the Algebra 1 EOC. You can see Harrisonville versus the state average when you combine it. And math gets a little convoluted just because of those 8th graders taking that Algebra 1 EOC. Slide 6 is grade level English. Again, how the grade level did there. We're above the state average in grades 4, 6, and 7. Again, we know there's work to do in here. We understand that, and but it is good to see some of the progress that they're making at the middle school, and it has been for 2 years now too. So way to go. High school level English 2, 63.6% versus the state 57.3. So I think overall, what we're seeing is in the higher grade at the EOCs, we typically out above the state averages, and we need to bring that up on the 3-5 spectrum too a little bit more. So grade levels, EOC is in science. There is no data to report in science. It was field tested last year, so there's no data. They'll go through and look at the results to make sure they're valid, and then that will come be a reportable subject matter again the following year. EOC Social Studies, the government EOC, 70.7% of our students scored advanced and proficient. That's a great number. Way to go. And I think that'll help us in our APR a little bit this year too. We're looking forward to that. If you go down to slide 13, it's just a composite score of the ACTs. The 10, 11, and 12 are the breakdown by subject. But overall, on our composite ACT score, we were 19.1. The state average was 20. Just so you know, we were down 0.2 a point from the previous year. The state was down 0.4 a point. I think traditionally the scores have been falling. Again, that everyone was tested and you had kids that really weren't interested in the ACT taking it, and now that that's not the case, we'll see if we get a rebound there. Slide 14, the TSAs. Again, the overall goal is the pass rate is 74% at the Career Center and by the state level, and you can see every field but one made that goal of 74%, and overall for their building, it was 87.3% of the students at the Career Center passed their TSA.
And with Perkins reauthorization, Perkins 5, is TSA going to even be something that we track anymore?
Yeah.
We still don't have that answer from Bessie, but
Yeah.
we will still be doing that because of a wide variety of things. It's our number one measure for measuring how teachers are doing
Right.
within a program, so we will continue to do even if it's not a state requirement.
Yep. But kudos down there, way to go. And so that's questions about any of the charts, the data, before we go into slide 15 on plans of action. Again, I'm not trying to make this sound simple or anything, but I do believe that if we complete the CSIP goals that we have in place, especially the 4 that we have listed there about guaranteed and viable curriculum, that's so important, implementing the PLC model, the continuous teach, assess how we're doing, not just assess the students, but look at how they're doing and then react to that. That whole cycle of teaching, that's important to the PLC model. Again, provide professional development to improve student academic achievement and implement an MTS, multi-tiered support system. I think if we can complete those and keep drilling on those, we don't need to change anything. We need to get better at those processes. And again, that comes with consistency. It comes with time. We're trying as much as we can for the quick fix, on things, but sometimes it just doesn't happen right away. And the rest of the things there have to do with summer curriculum writing. There's a K-5 writing pilot coming out next year. We're going to spend some money this summer getting that curriculum ready for our K-5 teachers. Middle school science is going to reconvene after meeting last year and aligning their essential standards to instructional practices and review how that went and what tweaks they need to make there on the science. And then there's just a further unpacking of the standards. Dr. Ritter, and when he was here, they established the essential standards, and now we're to the point where we need to see, are those the right standards, and if they are, how can we tie our instruction and unit planning together to meet those standards? And again, it's kind of where the rubber hits the road. We got the standard, what are we doing to teach it? And is that an effective way to teach it? And so we need to get to that point, and we're not there in all curriculum areas yet. And the rest, I think, is pretty self-explanatory as far as they go. Again, we are looking at, Paul and I are looking at a plan of action to increase student achievement in Standard 2 of MSEP 5. That's our subgroup scores for academic achievement. They're just, we need to drill into that further and figure out what's going on there. And then the last one, examine reading resources K-5, possibly K-8, to make a recommendation to purchase and implement. So those are some things coming forward.
Thank you for putting that together, Dan.
Yep.
Jesse always changes things. So for education, what do we have any expectations of something changing again? So it's hard to compare years because they've changed.
Well, I'll give you an example. Okay, we're scoring real well in government right now. They're changing that test. Okay, and so, we taught to those same standards for a number of years. We've kind of got the system down of our teaching, and this year, correct? It's a field test this year, so there'll be no results next year. Yeah. Yeah. And so that's an example of it. We're hoping the standards, the Missouri learning standards, stay the same. I mean, I think Paul, when he goes to his meetings, banging that drum because we just can't keep changing it all the time because it's hard to hit that moving target to compare data year after year, but also it's the teachers that are working on writing this curriculum and units and lessons, and then all of a sudden the standards change. Well, then those things need to be changed over too, and so we can't predict what the state's going to do, but hopefully.
Where does Missouri rank nationally?
Depends on what you look at. So the graduation rate, we're in the top 10. We do a great job of graduation rate. ACT score, not everybody takes the ACT score, so among states that take the ACT score, we're probably in the top maybe 10 there. I can't remember where that ranks. So but again, it's difficult because we give a different assessment than everybody else does too. This is our own developed assessment. So we went away from Common Core, which would have been able to compare us to different states. NAEP test is something that we can use to compare ourselves statewide, but not every. It's a sample. A NAEP is a sample test. Not every school or grade level takes the NAEP. We're testing NAEP this year.
We are 50 students at McEwen in fourth grade will get randomly tested this year in January. It happened. It's like the third time since I've been in the district that we've been NAEP tested, and so. But again, that's the nation's report card. But 50 of our students are taking it in fourth grade.
We don't even know how they do, so it's not. We don't get a report of how they did. So the parents don't, school doesn't. It just goes into that national database. So.
But that was the purpose of the Common Core, really, Tina, was to try to level that playing field so that you could compare from state to state.
Right.
And we went away with that from that as a state.
Okay. Okay. Move on to the CSIP.
So just touch on a couple of goals that we've been focusing on. Dan's mentioned curriculum and the multi-tier system of support. Within that is our screener, which we'll implement, and Dan and Christy have done a great job of getting that process off the ground, and the team went and looked at the different screeners and selected one that they felt like was best for our district, and so that will help us be able to assign students into different tiers of support. And then, of course, building relationships, goal number 4. We've had several listening posts. Yesterday I met with high school students, had a really good meeting with the student council, executive council, and talked about leadership and possible solutions and how they communicate that with the administration. And yeah, I thought it was a good meeting. And then, of course, our community engagement. We've sent out the people that partnered with us, and we in the community engagement meeting, we were able to send out kind of a summary. And it's difficult on the summary just to give us. It's a snapshot. I mean, I know we can't capture everybody's opinion, but we can give a snapshot of an overall view. And then, of course, safety. We've been really focusing on that visitor management piece. And at our last safety committee meeting, we had a demonstration by one of the vendors, and it was fantastic. And we had one of our attendant secretaries there, and she really liked it, and had a lot of really good questions. And so we'll hopefully have some more demonstrations to be able to compare, and then have a recommendation for the board soon on how we'd like to proceed with that visitor management system. So then that fits in that safety piece. So.
Perfect. Any questions or discussion?
Are you finding as you go through the season, when you see all the start dates and the goals and the end dates, are you seeing that things are falling into place like they were intended to?
Yeah, I mean, we need to make some modifications to it, I think, in the springtime, but I think that's when we can reconvene with the community and make sure that we have a lot of stakeholders in that process, and make sure that how we proceed forth. But we're trying to meet those. Absolutely. We're using that as our focus. So.
Very good.
All right. Universal screener proposal. We need a motion.
I move we approve the purchase of FastBridge as the universal screener for the district.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion?
There's been a lot of research and on this. It looks like from all the information that's been presented.
Yeah, they've done good work, and I hope that will help us to be able to assign students to the best intervention spot for them, and we can get them up to where they need to be and with the individual skills. So
Every student will be using this.
Dan, do you want to go into details of
I think K-5 is where we're going to start with it, Nancy. In kindergarten, probably second semester more than right away. They'll be giving it as a universal screener, so they'll take it the same way. Every student will, so we get the results back in the fashion that we need them. I think for this year, are you asking, or beyond?
No, just whenever it's implemented.
Yeah. K-5, yep. We're going to start with reading.
Okay, that was my question. What will they be screened?
We'll start with reading, and then we have the ability with FastBridge to add math and a behavioral component too. And it's all for the price, same price. So, but we want to get good at using the product instead of saying, okay, we have 3 areas, let's go for it. Let's get real good at one, and then train in the other ones.
And then I noticed that you had went and talked to different school districts locally that were using different systems. What did they come back and say the pros were to the FastBridge versus the Star 360?
The Star 360, the team didn't feel that they gave the reports in a method that teachers could use them was the major downfall of that program. It was kind of convoluted in trying to pull up the reports. We're trying to get something that's easy to use. The easier, the better. The pros to FastBridge were the reports, and also in the approach to giving the assessment. They're computerized assessments, but FastBridge, you can do what's called a sweep. You could with other ones too, but where let's say we pull the title teachers, the special ed teacher, Miss Meeks, and they go into the kindergarten room with their computer. They can do 3 kids each and be in and out of that room probably in 20 to 30 minutes, and then on to the next first or second grade classroom. And so we just thought it gave us more information that we wanted at this time, and also the ability in the future to use math and the behavioral component of it.
It's interesting that all 3 bids are so dramatically different in prices.
Yeah. Some people are pretty proud of their product, and not saying anything against it, but it just kind of, NWEA did kind of price themselves out right out of the get-go. I mean, and it was apples to apples. We asked for the same amount of licenses for each one. They have another product in there, but for more products, they charge more price. And so, we just, and I know a district locally that uses NWEA, and they're already looking to go towards something else because it wasn't working for them. And that kind of scares us off right then, too.
Any other discussion? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Computer science curriculum.
Don't need a motion or anything. Okay, just information. All right.
This is information.
Yep, thank you. Sorry about that. We are looking to expand our computer science curriculum throughout our whole secondary district. Currently, we have a apps maker class for Project Lead the Way in 7th grade, and we go to a lot of industry meetings and regional economic councils, and just the demand for computer science and the jobs. And it's not just being a coder or a programmer. I mean, if you work in the healthcare field, you need to have computer science. If you work in law enforcement, you need to have computer science. And so we want to start that path and keep that 7th grade class and add some in 8th and 9th and 10th. And then we worked with Jeanette at the Career Center to add those components too. And but Mark and I and Chris looked at different companies like Project Lead the Way, for example, Code, Hour of Code, Code.org. The thing about Code.org is it has a free curriculum, so it's online, it works on Chromebooks, all those things are pluses. Because we want to get the ball rolling. If it's not robust enough and we get into it, there's other options we can do. But to give you an example, Project Lead the Way doesn't work on a Chromebook yet. And so you have to buy new technology for that, and that gets spendy. And so the training is at Science City, so a teacher, we're not going to have to add new staff at the middle school and high school level. There's existing staff that we can use to be trained. At the middle school, it's just a one-day training. At the high school, they have to go for 5 days in the summer, then 1 day each quarter through the school year. And then we're looking to add next year, as a semester class in 9th grade, computer science discoveries, and then the following year add a 10th grade, potential 11th grade class of computer science principles, which would be a year-long course. So at the middle school, quarterly courses, first computer science class would be a semester. The next add-on would be a year-long. And hopefully then we can develop some feeders to Jeanette's program, kids that are interested in computer science. And then at her level, it becomes more about networking and cybersecurity. And you can see the DESI proposal that she had to turn in there to answer some of those questions. And Jeanette's here to field them, too, if you have them.
I really like it that you're looking at it district-wide, because sometimes I think we were lacking in this area in terms of IT across the board, but sometimes when there's just shotgun things, it really doesn't help build what we need to do to prepare them for that next step. So I like it. You're looking at it district-wide, and that you're talking with each other and trying to make it
Yep. Thanks.
I don't know how to word it, but to make it overall so we're all working toward the same goal.
And scope and sequence, between
Yeah,
grades and
yeah,
stuff.
good.
Very timely.
Thank you.
Yep.
Waiver of teacher contract day. We need a motion.
I move to waive makeup of the October 26th teacher contract day. November 26th teacher contract day.
Do we have a second?
Second.
So we had that contracted day for teacher development, professional development, and the weather was horrendous that day, so we canceled that professional development. One of the components of that professional development, the second half of the day, was supposed to be active shooter training, and so we will reschedule that for January 2nd, the afternoon of January 2nd, which was scheduled to be a full-day workday. So we're kind of taking some of the open work time from the staff in exchange for offering them that forgiveness on that contract day. So I would recommend that we give them that contract day off. Now, that doesn't apply to everybody. Obviously, we had some employees that were here that day. A few of us were here that day. And then we had some others that it doesn't apply to necessarily. So it's just, it's one of those lessons, I guess. Life's not always fair, but I think it's a nice concession to offer. So, that's my recommendation.
Any discussion? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Thank you.
Revised Board Policy IKFB.
I guess we need a.
No,
So
this is
this
just,
is
yeah, this is
information.
just
Next month.
information.
Sorry, yeah, this is informational. So, this is just the addition of the existing procedure that has occurred the last year or so with graduation, in terms of services for students who have passed on. So to be consistent, because we feel like that. Doing this for 25 years, I've seen where it'll almost become a popularity contest, and that's not what it should be. Where this student was so popular, we need to do all this for them, and this student they were only in our district for a year, so we don't need to do anything for them. And so I just, in terms of being consistent, I think it's important for the board to address that and make sure that those practices are consistent from year to year, and ensure that students are treated equitably. So.
And then this will come to the board next month for us to vote on.
Correct.
Okay. Any questions? Okay. Moving on to Board Policy GCPAA. We need a motion.
I move we rescind Board Policy GCPAA and remove this policy from the policy listing.
Need a second.
Second.
This is just an old policy that applies to the removal of staff due to budget constraints, and it's not law, it's not statute. I'm talking to Dwayne, and he said, it really shouldn't be there. So
Is there other policy that covers that, or
It's redundant, isn't it?
on a
It's
different
yeah.
policy
So if you
number, letter, or something?
Yeah.
I know you said in a Friday letter something about it was covered under some other letters.
BPF or
Aggressive. GCPF.
GCPF covers that.
remember this.
Okay. As long as it's covered somewhere.
that's right, GCPF.
Any other discussion? All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Okay, personnel, we do not have any. Business services, bids for visitor management software. This is an information item.
Right, so originally we had on there the bids for the visitor management software. We would like to see all of the products demonstrated, so just to get a better comparison. So.
We're looking at implementation for the next school year, right? Or are we looking at immediate?
We can put it in pretty quick. I think the secretaries would like it in quick if we can, because it's really helpful to their position. So.
Since it was a budget item, we have budget for it.
Mm-hmm.
It's also a one-time. Is there a one-time?
Well, most of it is, but there is a maintenance fee because of the software, so there'll be a minimal maintenance fee. But you're right. The biggest expense part is the tags and sometimes you have to resupply the tags too. But the printers and the software. So.
We'll print out. Well, I guess we won't know till we compare, but usually they print out a sticker that says that.
Right.
So how many are you looking at? I mean, how many bids have been received?
Well, what do we
Or
have?
they?
4. Was it we had 5. I think we did have 5.
We had 5 come in. The pricing, we did them as an RFP, so we could just look at it and determine, negotiate, all that. They were all over the place.
Really?
So we felt like we really maybe need to narrow our scope a little bit, get it a little more defined. So that's why we're going to go back out. And
Will you contact those that? Will you contact those?
yes, I'll do that in the morning.
That
Let them
did
know.
apply already. Or-
Who sits on that? Do we have a?
It's a safety committee that Bing's on safety committee. So.
Would you like input
You
in
want
that?
to be on that too?
Yes and no.
You want us to
Let's
vote?
see how well Bing does, and then I'll see.
No pressure.
Don't feel bad, Bing. That's what he said to me last month about the team Harrisonville committees.
Exactly.
He's over there.
We'll
He's
find
just
some
sitting back
committees
there
for
like
you,
this.
Oh, you might
Maybe
make
cool.
now.
That's fantastic. Okay. Are there any other questions or comments about that? Okay, we need a motion to adjourn and reconvene in closed.
I move to adjourn and reconvene in closed session.
I'll second that one.
Well, thank you.
Look at you, Doug.
We have a motion and a second. Chris,
Yes.
Gina, yes. Doug,
Yes.
Kathy,
Well, okay.
or no, Kathy's not. Let's just go right down the line there. Nancy, yes. Doug,
Yes.
Bing,
Yes.
Tina,
Yes.